What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another edition of On the Road to Victory. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a fantastic night. Apparently, should not wear orange on this screen. It is now freaking out. I apologize. I just had such a very, very long day. Hope you guys all had yourselves a good one. It was rainy, then it was just musky, and I was covered. Just still, I had to wash my hands like 50 times today. Just to get all this shit off when I got home. It's been a wild day, but not to complain. Here to celebrate the draft season and get ourselves excited. Do apologize. These are coming out every couple of days here. Just got a lot of work going down here and just trying to do my best to put as much work into this as I can and not just, give you a crappy product here. So I appreciate you taking the time, tuning in, hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, all the things you're doing to support the channel. Let's jump right into the stuff just like we're doing for each position. We're going to go through, look at the Eagles draft picks. Then we'll look at the positions of strength, positions of need, really, their rankings there, what we have at the wide receiver position today, and, of course, all of the prospects. And then we'll get into the top fits. So love to hear your thoughts, any questions, comments. Leave them down below. But I can't take this lighting anymore, so let's get into some of these effing graphics. We're going to start off with the draft picks. And when everything is finalized and we get the actual picks, we know we picked 32 because Super Bowl champs. But let's take a look at the picks. Not only we have this year, we have 8. Well, 11 the next year, 7 the next year. So you got yourself 26 picks here, or 26 picks here. And I think, obviously, we all know that Howie Roseman could trade up. He could trade back. He could trade for multiple picks. He could get less picks. It's really how the draft shakes out, how they like some of these players. And with the luxury we have, I know a lot of the casuals, a lot of people in the media losing their minds, a couple weeks into free agency. Look, we all know Howie knows what he's doing, building something special here. And we're going to go into this draft looking for the best player available. And sure, there are positions that are more of need, so we'll be looking more so for those positions. But it's how it all plays out. And we'll look at some of these players that I think the Eagles could be taking a look at and where I think they could do that. So you let me know how you feel. Maybe there's some receivers that I don't mention. Whatever's on your mind, love to hear from you. But I'm going to show you the Eagles' positions of need rankings here, where I think where the wide receiver position is, I have at 6 because as I've talked about this offseason, you have a lot of positions where you're going to, lose these free agents, which we did. But we have young pieces ready to step up. Now, wide receiver was not one of those positions. We talked about Dotson being that number 3. Obviously, AJ and Devontae, the best duo in the league. So you're pretty set at wide receiver. But beyond that, you never know, injuries with AJ or Devontae or Dotson, anything can happen. And we dealt with injuries, Covey and Campbell was on the practice squad. We had so many things going on at that wide receiver 4 position where I think it's important to ensure what depth you do have, you're making the right, choices here with off-season additions. So we talked about it. Look, you got a couple of reserve future signings. And I think that, for me, you always have to have depth. And that's how, we won the Super Bowl last year. We ensure we get these guys. And, tight end, we still have Dallas Goedert. So that's why it's, below here. But still another position I think we could look to add and very high. And look, we'll talk about tight ends here this weekend. But wide receivers, again, with the AJ, Devontae, Dotson, you drafted Johnny Wilson and Lambert-Smith. And you remember both of those guys were top fits for me last year. You get the big red zone target, had drop issues. Maybe he falls. That happened. Lambert-Smith, gadget player, gets a little banged up. So we need him to continue to develop. But you've got guys here. Danny Gray, Elijah Cooks, the reserve future guys that were brought in. And look, Campbell, Covey, Phillips, you're no sweat off my back here. But again, always look to improve, regardless of having players that you drafted in hopes to be that guy. If there's somebody you like in this draft, and you know me, somebody that used to play wide receiver, so I love me some wide receivers. And if there's someone they like and they want to add, I'm all about it. And there are so many wide receivers that I really, really enjoyed watching this year. And the last couple of years watching their careers here. But I think, again, it's a position that I don't think you necessarily need, but just showing you that ranking where I feel the Eagles, could add depth. So, yeah, stay focused on that wide receiver position. And I love a lot of these guys. So let's take a look at the list here. And I've got, starting us off here, round 7, maybe, and then undrafted. So these are your back end guys that I think could fall here, but still a lot of talent. And, guys like Will Shepard, Brennan Presley, I really enjoy their games. I think, anything can happen. And that's the cool part, about the draft. I think it's a crapshoot. So, again, take it all with a grain of salt, what I say. I'm just going off of what I think. You guys can tell me how you feel. These are guys, I think definitely you could see a couple of these guys maybe in training camp. You're going to sign some undrafted players and maybe some players here that I have ranked in the 6th, 7th-ish round. Maybe they go a little higher. Maybe they fall. But some exciting names here. I like Brew McCoy, Lambert-Smith there, Mumfield, Webster, Prather. I think, a lot of guys, I know Jimmy Horn is a popular name, but Daquan Felton, I really enjoy a lot of these players here. So for me, you don't have to necessarily go high in this draft for a wide receiver to add that 4th guy, but you're also looking toward the future too. So if there's a guy you feel, AJ, a couple years from now will be gone, let's get somebody and, have him learning under AJ and Devontae. Clearly Devontae part of the future. So is AJ for now. And Dotson's here. So again, just because you have something doesn't mean you can't add more. And I think a lot of these guys would be exciting to have. Definitely could go a lot higher. And then rounds 4 or 5, a lot of talent here. Lane and Lambert-Smith and Restrepo. You got so many guys, I think. Honestly, Thornton, Wells, White, Tesla, I know is an exciting player to watch. I think that, some of these guys, again, could definitely go higher. Some could fall because there's so many receivers I really enjoyed watching, and it's all over the place, and it's how the scouts feel, how these teams feel. That's up to them. But these are the guys I had in the 4-5 range. Now, the 2nd, 3rd round guys, I think, you can really find yourself a stud here in this. And, I've got some guys that maybe, people definitely would not agree with, Kyle Williams, Tyler Horton, and that's okay. Isaiah Bond, I think for me was still an exciting prospect, but I didn't think he had the greatest year last year. So I don't necessarily think he's a bad receiver, but dropped him down the list a little bit here. But Royals and Higgins and Aya Manor, Felton and Tez Johnson. There's a lot of exciting names. And again, some of these guys could go in the 1st round, and I think they should. But just kind of what I see and how I feel about the NFL is how I make these lists. And I'm not saying all of these guys are going in the 1st round. I'm saying that these are possible, picks for people to take in that round. And I think Travis Hunter, regardless of whatever position he's going to play, wide receiver, corner, both, a team's going to get themselves a stud here. So I've got him number 1, even like whatever you want to, list him as, that's fine. But he's awesome. And I think we can all agree with that. So I got him number 1 in whatever team wants to do here. But I think a lot of what I see out there, McMillan is the number 1 guy out there. And I think, he's a good player. I really do like his game. But I honestly was more impressed with Matthew Golden and Luther Burden. Now, Luther Burden, I would have put in front of Golden, but there's just a lot of character stuff with him where off the field, his work ethic is in question. Just things that doesn't exactly make me think, oh, Howie Roseman's really going to want that, or another GM's really going to be excited. So I moved him down, but I still think a team could definitely take a flyer on a very exciting player there. So that's just how I have it ranked out. You guys can let me know how you feel about those rankings. And again, I don't know that the Eagles are looking too high. Maybe they really like somebody in at 32. They're like, F it, let's go. Or they fall back and there's a couple guys they like and they take someone in the 2nd. Trade back is what I meant to say, but you get it. But let's take a look now. Out of those players, my top fits. Now, doing a little something different here because I just really don't have time with how much I work. And there was a lot of players. And I really just didn't have time to sit here and convince myself to just choose players while getting rid of others, because I just didn't feel I wanted you to know the players I really like here. So before we get into my top 5, These guys are players I really, really would like. Ricky White out of UNLV. This is somebody that brings something to the table where, he was one of those back end guys, the lower rounds there, where I don't give a damn, where he's taken. I think that, this dude, he had like a few punt blocks. He plays special teams really well, but, he has some drops. He has some things. So if he falls, you get someone like him, makes an impact on special teams. I like his game as a receiver too, but just saying, I would be exciting. Brew McCoy, tough as nails. I love his game. I think he would fit here well. I'm not sure. He's a pick. LeJontay Wester out of Colorado. He gets overshadowed, obviously, by Sanders and Hunter there. But, dude, very exciting player. And I want Lambert-Smith to be that guy, so I'm hopeful. But I don't know that you don't just take a flyer on someone if they're at a spot that you like. So, hey, maybe he's here. I'd be okay with it. Torrey Horton, big fan. Kyle Williams, a very big fan as well. So these guys, it was hard to not make the graphics for them, but these are the ones I could do without, I guess. Jalen Lane, I think another player that's very exciting. His route running is probably the best in this class. So a guy I would definitely enjoy learning from Devontae here. AJ, that'd be awesome. Jalen Royals, very fun to watch there. And I think, most of these guys here I obviously really like, but this kid, he has some drops. Doesn't block well, kind of, needs to put on some mass there. But I like Royals. Arian Smith, this kid, exciting as hell, but just so many drops and things that just really concern me where, speed is great. Having that elusiveness, I really enjoy his game. I do, don't get me wrong, but that's why I left him off. But Jack Besh there out of TCU, very fun to watch. And then Kanata Mumfield out of Pitt. So these are guys that they are top fits for me. I think that the Eagles would be lucky to have any of those players. I like them, but I left them off the graphics page, and I'm not making 15 graphics here. So here's my top 5. These are the guys that I would love to see the Philadelphia Eagles go ahead and grab. So Tez Johnson. So the reason I have him down here at 5 is, well, again, I don't think you have to go high here. So I don't know that I go out and take a flyer on him, but Tez Johnson's very exciting to watch, and he can help you in that return game. And I'm always looking for that. Only has a 4.5 140, so you're thinking, oh, he doesn't have 4.3, so he can't. No, dude. This dude, and you can see it with his route running. I just think he's got great footwork, and, his change of direction, his acceleration, somebody that I just think that he has a vertical game even with that speed, but he is fun to watch. Like, he just is a return guy because – it's one of those receivers you want to just get the ball into his hands, and the Eagles like to do that. So he's really fun to watch. I think that clearly at 165 pounds, I've seen him listed at 160, a little guy, but we have one of those here, and we know that anything is possible here in the NFL. So hopefully he can put on some ass, toughen up, because he's going to get manhandled there by some of these corners out there. And I think just some of the things in the NFL where needs to use his hands more. I think while catching the ball, I just kind of feel these are the reasons maybe I didn't have him higher, but I really do like him. You can see a 9.3 yards per return average there. I got a touchdown. He has 28 receiving touchdowns, 12.5 yards per reception. So really fun player to watch, only 22 years old. Went to Troy, but then transferred to Oregon there. Really fun. Seriously, go watch him. I would love to have Tez Johnson on the Eagles. Now, up next, another, okay, if we're in the 2-3 range, who is somebody I really would like to be excited about walking away from the draft with? And Alec Ayamaner here, 21 years old, 6'2", 206, 4.4440. And I think a team would be very lucky to have him. The reason I have him in that 2-3 range, I just think he's a really good blocker. That really helps, but he's a big dude, and he's a great route runner. I think that he's somebody that can help you as a vertical, medium, and the short routes. So this is somebody I think is going to have a very good NFL career. The fact that he run blocks the way he does is awesome. But, put the ball in his hands and watch him work. He is tough as nails as well. And I think that, this is a guy where a wide receiver, you want to be able to see him catching the ball. He makes tough catches. Now, does have some drops. He does have some things that concern me. I don't like that. But, dude, you're always going to be able to pick apart these college players or young players. And I think he's going to have to, learn from some guys on his release, his route running. And that's just kind of how it is when you have these young players. So that's okay. And I think just his toughness, 14.8 yards per reception, zero rush touchdowns. I don't know why it says 4 there, but he has 12 receiving touchdowns in the 2 years he played there at Stanford. So I'd love to have A. Manor there. Let me know how you feel about those two. But looking at the back end, we talked about getting guys, that you don't need to draft too high. Oh, my God. Daquan Felton would be one of those guys. And this is another guy that's great at run blocking, but he is a project. I think, 4 years he was at Norfolk State and Virginia Tech, 24 years old. He's 6'5", 215 pounds there, 4.540. I know that scares some people. A.J. Brown ran like a 4.49, so don't stress it. But this is a big dude, 19 receiving touchdowns. I don't know why all the zeros got turned to 4s for the rush touchdowns, but all right, dude, that's annoying. 15.3 yards per reception. I think Felton is a stud. He is a big dude. Doesn't necessarily remind you of A.J. Brown, but just a big-bodied wide receiver that goes out there. And, he, again, is one of those prospects that needs to work on his route running, needs to work on some things that I just think any, back-end receivers probably you're going to hear some of the same stuff because that's just how young players are. Not everybody's coming out polished, ready to rock. But this kid, I think, has a bright future ahead. I think he could definitely help on special teams. Like his toughness there. I think he finds himself definitely on an NFL roster next season. Now, at number 2 here, man, this was hard not to put one. Penn State fan here, and I think that enjoyed my time watching him there. But Keandre Lambert-Smith transferred to Auburn last year, had his 1 year there after 4 years at Penn State. 6'1", 190, only 22 years old. 4.37 yard, 40-yard dash. I know you guys love that stuff, so I throw it in there. But I think you could see him on day 3, and I think maybe early. But I think this is a kid that that rush touchdown is really pissing me off. I don't know why. Okay. But 15.1 yards per reception, over 2,600 yards receiving, 19 receiving touchdowns. I think that this kid, oh, my God, go watch the tape on him. Go watch highlights, whatever the hell you want to do. You will get excited. And I don't really watch too many other shows or try to go off, but I just really don't hear too much about him. So maybe that's just my fault. But having that speed, having the size, and look, he's only 6'1", 190, like a little skinny. I think he definitely wants to put on some weight and muscle. But again, he's 22 years old, so he can do that. I just think with that speed, baby, and I think obviously he's a deep ball threat there with that. And he does play more physical. Don't get me wrong. Like, he does have a strong game, but when you get to the NFL, you're definitely going to have to, bulk up a little. But he's got great footwork, change of direction there. I just think that you're going to have to develop him, but he's going to need, some help from guys like Devontae and AJ. I think it would be perfect fit for him to come here, really open up his route tree and, really help him with just catching the ball, doing things that I think, are the reason maybe he goes down a little bit. But this kid is, I think, going to be one of those sleeper picks that doesn't go necessarily too high. Maybe he does. Maybe someone else feels that way in the NFL. But I think, he has a bright future ahead if he lands in the right situation there. But number 1, this dude's just too effing good. I just really enjoy watching him, and he's pretty much my favorite guy in this draft here at wide receiver. So 6'4", 222 pounds. Out of TCU, 5 years there, Savion Williams, 4.48, 40-yard dash. And I don't know, man. Maybe somebody wants to take him in the first, maybe in the second, third. I honestly have no idea. But to me, I would take him at 32. Even if they did that, I would not even be mad about it. If they thought he was the future here to learn from AJ and play with Devontae and these guys, yes. But as you can see here, 137 receptions, 1,655 yards. That's 12.1 yards per reception with 14 touchdowns. He has a 6.2 yards per rush average. You can see he ran the damn ball 62 times, had 6 rushing touchdowns. That was last season. You can see he's passed the ball He's got a passing touchdown in there. Kid's got a cannon arm. Played quarterback in college or high school. I apologize, but he is just a dynamic weapon. And then you see kick returns. He does as well. So a 22.3 yard per return average there. This dude with the ball in his hands, and he's, oh my God, just go watch it, man. I promise you, if you're looking for someone to be excited about, this is that dude. And I just think that, again, and obviously I look for those, the Bruce Feldman, those freaks, the freak athletes. I'm always looking at that. And doesn't mean everything, the RAS scores, the 40 times, all that stuff. You can take it all into account. But I just think that, he is somebody that he does so much. Oh my God. I just would love to have him, man. And I think, having just that trickery, being able to run the ball, pass the ball, catch the ball, that is something I think Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo would have a great time with. And he is a deep threat and catch the ball across the middle, short possessions. I just think he's got it all, dude. And he's an ox. Like, he plays strong. And there are definitely some times that, I think he could definitely work on is catching the ball. And that sucks to say about a wide receiver. But I think that's why maybe he goes in the 2-3 range. I think he could be a first-round receiver. But that's what's great about these kids. You never know, man. It depends on where they went to school, what their offense is, what they're learning there. I don't think his blocking was the greatest. So if he comes here, he's going to learn that, man. And I just think that, it's nice to have the team we do with such great leadership, because you can take chances on kids that, possibly are falling because of this, that, the other thing, but they could be one of the best receivers in the game one of these days. And I think that's Savion Williams here. And I did see somebody saying something about him. I was trying to look up something. Somebody was saying, about Quentin Johnson. Look, I don't understand. And maybe some of you Eagles fans have, PTSD from Jalen Reagor, me being one of them. I get it. But why do we think just because someone goes to the same school that they do the same thing as someone else? It's like when people say about this person was on the Cowboys, so they have to suck, or Commanders. We signed someone before that played for them, and now this guy. It's like, how is that even an assessment? That's lazy thinking and really weird, because it means absolutely nothing. So I promise you, Savion Williams is an effing stud. Go check him out. Would love to have him. He's my top fit at wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's all I've got for you here tonight. If you guys have any thoughts, any questions, comments, anything on your mind, a receiver I didn't mention you want to talk about, we talked about Larison, the running back, who I think could play wide receiver. He was my top fit at running back. So a lot of great options here in this draft. If you're looking for skill positions, and one of my favorites, tight end, that's coming up next. So that's a position I'm really looking forward to. I know it was under tight end, but if something were to happen to Dallas Goedert, you would definitely need something. But I think, you still want to have his replacement here. We brought in Bryant. We brought in Granson, two of my top fits in free agency for the Eagles. So I'm excited about it. But the tight end position is important. We're going to talk about that coming up next. But look, that's all I've got for you here tonight. So until that show, hopefully a Fan Friday tomorrow. I don't know. It's my birthday on Monday. So expecting some things to be going down this weekend. I know people are trying to, spend some time with me, and I'm all about it. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the love already. And look, I'm an old man, so bear with me. Trying to work my ass off, get home, do this stuff, spend time with family, do everything I possibly can, losing my mind. But it is draft season. So for all of you sickos enjoying your sicko season, I appreciate you all tuning in here. Hope you're enjoying the content so far in this off season, but plenty more to come. We're going to get through this draft stuff. The draft is like 3 weeks away, 21 days. Let's effing go. Cannot wait, baby. So keep telling me how you feel about it. I'll get back to you guys when I can. We'll talk about this stuff. I'll try to do my weekend live videos so we can break stuff down. You guys can tell me how you feel. I'll give you my pick for the Eagles this season. We'll go for 7 years. Holy shit. But I'll try to do my best to pick that person, figure out who I think the Eagles are going to take, and hopefully we'll get them. But appreciate you. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this bad boy. Subscribe down below. But that's all I've got for you. So if you need me, feel free to reach out and comment down below. Always here for you guys as you are for me. But have yourselves a great rest of your night. Tomorrow is Friday. Let's effing go. Hope to see you then. If not, whenever it is. Until next time, I'm Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You all have yourselves a great night. Stay safe out there, and as always,